Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and bringing it back into one of the coolest groups in San Diego at National University, one of our favorites in the studio, Dr. Mark Milliron. He is the president and CEO of National University. You know, Mark, you've been on the show many, many times. The next time you're on, you get to host it forever. Okay, how's that sound?
I'm just glad to be in the mixer.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely in the mix. And joined by your colleagues, Dr. Chris Graham. He is EVP of Workforce and Community Education. Chris, how you doing?
Great, Drew. Thanks for having me here.
That's right. We've only known each other for how many years? Decades and decades?
At least 20.
At least 20 years over here. Well, it's good to have you on the show. You've been on the show before, and we have a newcomer on the show that's joining us, as her colleague Meg O'Grady was just on, Senior VP of Military and Government Programs, and that's Dr. Cindy Janicik, Director of Public Safety Partnerships. How you doing, Cindy?
Doing great.
Appreciate that. Thanks for coming on the show over here. So, Mark, tee us up again. I know this is a broken record for a lot of our listeners, but you never know who was listening before. A little background on NU.
Yeah, so National University is a part of the San Diego educational ecosystem, but a different kind of player in the university world. We're a university that was created from the very beginning, more than 53 years ago, totally focused on non-traditional working and military students. We were founded by a PhD Navy captain that was totally focused on how do we create a model of education that works for folks who can't use the traditional model. They want academic excellence, but they want access and equity at the same time. So fast forward from that crazy idea 53 years ago to today, we now have helped graduate more than 240,000 students. We're operating in all 50 states, but of course, San Diego is by far our biggest region. We have about 50,000 credit students a year that we serve in our degree programs across 6 colleges and about 80,000 workforce training students. We are about 50 doctoral programs, including a law degree, 50 master's programs, and 50 bachelor's programs. So we're probably the most comprehensive option available for those working non-traditional and military students.
One thing we haven't shouted out enough before we get to Cindy and to Chris on it, you folks are so benevolent. You are involved in so many organizations and lifting them up. First to say, Classroom of the Future Foundation, thanks to the unbelievable work of Dr. Nancy Rowland, who has been certainly an icon in our community for 75,000 different reasons, but certainly with organizations such as Classroom of the Future Foundation. Talk about how important that is for you guys to lift folks like that up.
Yeah, so, Chris has the blessing of leading our workforce and community education group, and it really is about our engagement directly with employers, our engagement directly with community organizations. We are from the community, so we are of the community, and part of it is you being partners and being connected on the ground with those nonprofits, with those what I would call instigators out there who are trying to do good work. We want to find those people who are trying to make a difference, and we want to make sure we can help catalyze it, leveraging the resources that we have. And at the same time, by doing that, you're actually opening the doors to folks who haven't really thought sometimes that education is going to be possible for them because they're working full time, because they're raising kids, or because they're in the military, and then they find out, NU actually is a place where I can come and do that.
Without question. Kristen, do we have a question for Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we're talking a bit about, changes in how we're approaching education for public safety employees. I can't be alone in this. Can we just define public safety and what fields that kind of encompasses, first of all, so we know who we're serving and all of that good stuff?
Absolutely. So that it's sworn officers, it's corrections, it's detentions, it is professional staff within the organizations as well. And really for public safety, we've been doing our public safety education for decades. And really it came about, I think, probably about 8 years ago when we really started to lean into a lot of the stackable pieces with public safety and being able to take police academy training and building that in. And it's really become I think, a cornerstone of what Mark was talking about in terms of building access. And it was really with the police academies and bringing that in that really kind of set the stage for us to be doing a lot of prior learning of unbundled education and a lot of exciting ways to really connect with our communities.
Exactly. So, Cindy, talk about your role when it comes to public safety and communication and collaborations and partnerships and everything in between.
I literally have the best role. So I get to serve partners obviously in the San Diego area, but throughout the country. And by partnering what President Milliron was talking about is not just academic programs and academic excellence,
right,
but being a partner with the community. So for example, in San Diego, the San Diego County Probation and Corrections Association, we've been working with them to find out what training they need. How can we be a good community partner? And their officers actually had a huge pay bump from making the low $20 an hour to the mid 30s. So the president of the association was worried about how they were going to manage this kind of pay increase, longevity. So we actually brought a financial advisor out to the organization to speak about financial management. And if it's mental health, which is a big issue with law enforcement, my team, we have over 80 years of criminal justice experience within our team. Plus, we have access to all these trainers throughout the country. So if there's a need that an agency has, whether it's academic excellence, which National University can offer, or if there's something within the organization, a service that we can provide, we want to do that.
So talk a little about the changes in how you guys approach this public safety education.
So National University offers such a wide variety of programs where most academic institutions, if catering to adult learners or non-traditional students, you only have a couple. And then they're actually geared towards your 18 to 22-year-old population, but it's just put into an online format. Where National University has a different approach. It is designed for that adult learner population. So from the design to the instructors to be military service, National's done this for such a long time that they have this niche down. So any adult learner, from the application process to the enrollment process to the academic programs to what Chris is talking about with credit for prior learning, training, converting that to credit, trying to make access and enrollment, graduation, and so forth easy, accessible, and seamless, but without surpassing academic excellence. Why can't we as adult learners have access to excellence as well? Why does it have to be limited to the 18 to 22-year-olds?
The expanse is really part of the big deal in this. And Cindy's, I think, dead on in this idea of, one, we're built for this population, especially a working population within public safety, but we're expansive in that you can be somebody who is somebody just coming out of police academy, and we can actually map the police academy directly into our criminal justice degree. You get 6-7 courses right into our criminal justice degree and fast track and get yourself on the way to get a bachelor's degree. But then later, when you want to go into leadership and become a chief, or you want to go even higher than that, you can get your master's with us. You can even go get a doctorate with us. There's all kinds of options. And the idea for us is we're going to meet them at the right age and stage. We're going to get the right resource around them and help them to be able to do it while they're working at the same time.
Well, you guys are poster childs for meeting people where they are, no matter how old they are, where they are, what their experience is, and that's what you folks do. We're chatting with our good friends from National University, Dr. Mark Milliron. He is the president and CEO, joined by Dr. Chris Graham, EVP of Workforce and Community Education, and Dr. Cindy Janicik, Director of Public Safety Partnerships. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades. Is doing very cool things for us folk living in San Diego County, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc., celebrating their 20th anniversary. Cindy, I was looking forward to chatting with you about this because we've talked about this for quite a while over the 18 years we've done this show. And you've been in NU, since August of 2023, but you're certainly an expert in this public safety group. Over and over again, from the sheriffs we've had on the show, from the police chiefs, Shelley Zimmerman has been that works very closely with you folks, has been a very frequent guest, to everything in between. Now Scott Wall taken on as the new
and he's an NU grad, by the way.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise anybody. But Cindy, one of the things that I've always heard for over the years, through all the folks that have been in the first responder area in San Diego, there's no place like San Diego, that these folks come together and actually work well together. Talk about that.
Absolutely. One of the big issues right now we have, like not just in the San Diego community, but really throughout the world, is fentanyl.
Right.
So again, trying to be that good community partner, I've already started working with Chief Wall, also with San Diego chapter of HIDA, to really bring together a presentation that we can share with the community on what fentanyl is, why it's dangerous, and we have faculty that can add to that conversation as well. So to try to have that collaborative approach.
Right, exactly. Kristen?
Yeah, I wondered if maybe we could turn it back over to Chris for a second. I was curious about this Public Safety Promise Scholarship. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that came about around the same time we were doing the Police Academy articulation. The reason we really did that, okay, so there are about 80,000 law enforcement officers in California and about 40 police academies. So people go, they start in the police academy, and then they get out in the field, and when it's time for them to move up to sergeant, they need a bachelor's degree. And so then they'll go back and they'll do their bachelor's degree, and in many cases, it's the exact same content that they learned in the police academies. So really, they're taking the courses over again. And it was really when we were talking to Bonnie DeMonis, if you remember, she was the DA at the time, and she's the one who pointed it out, because we're teaching cohorts down for Bonnie's office, down in the office there in Bachelor's of Criminal Justice. But she was also a commissioner on POST, which is Peace Officer Standard and Training, which kind of sets the curriculum and the training for the police officers. So she pointed us out to the overlap. And so what our faculty did is they mapped out the commonalities between the two curriculum, and they were able to waive out 40% of the bachelor's program for law enforcement officers who are going on to get their bachelor's, which is a really big game changer for us and for them in terms of access and affordability. And so with that, what we came in on top of that was added a 25% Public Safety Promise Scholarship. So what that meant is that officers would be able to complete their bachelor's degree programs, 10 courses, 11 months, because we have a 2-month capstone, and then for $12,000. So when you talk about access and affordability and helping people to move up within their careers and their station in life, I think this was one of those pivotal moments for the university.
Yeah, and well, go ahead, Mark. You were going to add something.
No, I was just going to say that I think we're seeing broadly with employers of all different stripes, they're realizing that creating pathways for educational progress is a big deal. There's this great book that was published last year called The Perennials, and the book The Perennials is talking about this idea that we don't live in a sequential model anymore. So the whole Gen X, millennial, boomer, or Gen Z conversation doesn't really hold the same water, because what happens is you don't go to school, go to college, go to work, have a family, retire now. People are now swirling at all different ages and stages, doing different things. And so having different models to be able to kind of meet that need becomes a really big deal, and meeting folks where they are. Well, laying that as a predicate, what that has meant is that earning and learning is becoming more prominent, where people are now saying, okay, it's not just go to school, go to work. Now, while you're working, if you want to rise and thrive in your profession, you got to be able to go back to school and go to school while you're working. And so we have the blessing of working with the military. We work with law enforcement. We work with CVS. We work with Walmart. It doesn't matter what the organization, and over 2,000 school districts. How do you figure out how you can kind of embed in that and actually understand the training they're doing, map it for credit, and then allow people to accelerate? So part of our job is to not try to buy into the traditional model of go to school, go to work, but actually understand, no, we're all going to go to learn.
Right. Cindy, when we come back from break, I know you want to add to that as well. And plus, I'm going to give you some time to think about this too. I want to hear a little bit about your background as well, and how you got here, and your storied involvement with public safety. And I probably shouldn't be saying this on air, but it's too late. I'm going to do it now. You're a martial arts expert. I want to hear a little bit of that background. Yes, you can stare at me. Yes, right. Karate chop to Mark over here. That if you didn't hear that
already,
that's right. Exactly. No, I seriously want to hear what your background is, and circle back to my good friend Chris Graham and all the unbelievable programs that you folks do just above and beyond public safety. And we'll always close it with Mark on what our listeners can do to continue to support the phenomenal efforts of NU. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit. So we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, just doing good things in San Diego County with our friends from National University. Dr. Mark Milliron, he is the president and CEO, joined by his colleagues, Dr. Chris Graham, EVP of Workforce and Community Engagement, and Dr. Cindy Janicik, Director of Public Safety Partnerships, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She's the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc., celebrating their 20th anniversary in Liberty Station. So Cindy, talk a little bit about your background and how you got to NU, and just a little bit about your martial arts background, if you don't mind. And I'm sure I'm going to be paying for this dearly in more ways than one. So,
I actually spent 15 years with the Phoenix Police Department as an officer. Actually, most of my career, half of it was as an undercover narcotics detective.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved my law enforcement career. Was blessed to work for an agency that supported higher education for its officers. I've known President Milliron since I was 19. Actually, first-generation college student, so I really didn't have a pathway of
Congratulations.
How I wanted to. Yeah. I knew I wanted to go to college. I met him when I was at ASU.
Right.
And he had this path where he went from ASU then to the University of Texas for his doctorate degree, also Gerardo de los Santos, same thing. And so really Mark's been mentoring people since, for many, many, many years.
You can say 4 decades.
So he actually converted some of us from business majors to communications majors because that's what his major was.
Right.
And I really just followed his path. I went into law enforcement because I wanted to help people.
Right.
And then I watched Mark over on the other side help people in a different way with higher education.
Right.
So I knew after my law enforcement career, I wanted to make that transition back into higher education.
Right.
And follow Mark and Gerardo. Phoenix PD, we had a gentleman who worked for the agency that provided educational opportunities, gave us pathways, that mentorship. Because most adult learners, and especially officers too, because you're juggling so many different responsibilities.
Right.
And you want your post-PD career, you have something you want to do. Many of us want to teach, but you don't know how to get there. You don't know the right degree plan.
Right.
So we had someone who basically believed in us, said, you can do this. We'll help you with this pathway to do this. We'll find the best program for you. And that's the mentality that my team and I have brought over to National, where obviously we have educational opportunities, but most adult learners, they don't know that path. And number 2, they want someone to believe in them. They don't want to go to a website or a 1-800 number. It's like, this is what I want to do. I want to teach. I want to teach in this topic. So what is the best path to that?
Right. Well, and Chris, that's literally in your DNA. And of course, what you've been doing for many, many moons is pathways in the workforce. And we all know this. We sort of chatted about this before, Mark, that certain people, whether they're veterans, whether they're police officers, and they've done 70 to 80% of the work over here. Now, how do we close it with the next 20 to 30%? Talk about how important that is.
Absolutely, sure. And our group oversees what's called value-rich education. And so that's a series of on-ramps and off-ramps into the university. So an on-ramp could be anything from prior learning, which is what we do with the police academies, to maybe stackable or unbundled education. And so an example of that might be a construction management. So people might not necessarily need the full degree right now to go into construction management, but they need the training. And so what we're able to do is to unbundle our Bachelor's of Construction Management program, stand up 200 hours. People can sit for the exam, then get out working. And then when it's time for them to move up to supervisor, they can roll that straight back in instead of having to take those courses over again.
Right.
So they already have a pathway or on-ramp into the university.
Yeah, I want to make sure we unbundle that value-rich education. We have a deep belief at National University that completion is the low bar. Like finishing your degree, of course we want you to finish your degree. But while you're at National, we want you to have a deeply valuable transformative experience, which means, one, we want it to be credential rich, which means we want you to get all the credentials that give you the most power possible. It might be certifications, badges, and we actually even measure credential density across our degree programs to make sure we're mapping that, and Chris's team really optimizes that. Second is connection rich, which means we want you to connect with other students, faculty, professionals in your field. And those connections are often the game changer for it. But Cindy just talked about it. Like our connection early became something where we've been like help mentor and connect with each other over the years and help kind of drive. Those are things that are transformative. And the third is experience rich, which is how do you weave in internships and professional experiences so that person can actually get some of that kind of real life, experiences are out there, which is easier and easier to do when you're working with employers in the space. So that value rich side is an important thing for us because Kristen, going back to your question about is college worth it? Like, from the earlier conversation, like you have to be able to answer that question in a concrete way and trying to show the students, here's the value set you're going to get in coming to a place like NU. Then you can have an authentic conversation about possibilities with them.
I have a follow-up question. Maybe it's a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, so who cares? I've heard a couple of different ways through this interview and the last one about how you deliver education. So is everything delivered through a hybrid model? Is it like a do-it-your-own pace? Like I've seen physical infrastructure. So I guess I'm just curious because it seems
varies,
like you have lots of different ways for people to receive education. So you don't have to go over every degree and everything, but I'm just kind of wondering.
I'll give you the broad strokes.
Yeah, thanks.
So I often, these folks know, both Chris and Cindy know, I will bristle when people say, oh, you're an online university. It's like, stop. It's like National University is an innovator that will use whatever technology, tool, policy, or practice to help a non-traditional working or military student succeed. Today, online and hybrid learning is one of the key coins of the realm, but we've already launched our metaverse campus. Like we're already moving into virtual reality. We've got all kinds of interesting tools. And trust me, in 10 years, it's going to be very different.
Totally.
Right now, we're about 65% online, and the rest is a mix of hybrid and on-ground. Some of the military programs and some of the training programs require face-to-face, and a lot of our clinical programs for teachers are happening in the school districts. Okay. And we're actually on military bases, like working with training, for those kinds of things. So it's a mix. Now, that is enabled by a model where we basically, our bachelor's and master's programs are a combination of 4-week and 8-week courses. And that model we've found allows a student to kind of like save cognitive load. When you're a working student or you're a parent, doing one course at a time, you can handle that. Taking 5 at a time is really tough and almost impossible. And then our graduate program is really, like I said, like the Oxford model. It is you in a one-to-one faculty relationship with a key lead faculty member, and then you're able to have all kinds of other educational experiences with other faculty across the board.
Very cool.
Right. So, Cindy, let me ask you this. What can our listeners do to support the efforts that you're doing? Ask anything you'd like, volunteer, contribute, point you in the right direction. You're already in the right direction, but what can we do?
We really want to be a partner. So my team and I, with that, we have partnered with the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE. So with that, it's offering training. NOBLE wanted training for first and middle line supervisors and also at the executive level. So we developed training for them to be able to offer this to their members. So if you are the head of an organization, you're an employee within the organization, sworn or professional staff, or you're a member of NOBLE, please contact us. We want to meet you, as Dr. Milliron said, where you're at. Whatever training you need, we can either develop that for you or we can bring that out to your agency. Offering academic advisement and guidance and support, we will bring that to your agency to support you as an educational community partner.
Right. So how do they get a hold of you? Just email?
NU.edu. That's the easiest way to catch us. And then from there, you have all kinds of ways of connecting directly with the law enforcement side.
And then NU also has a website for the Public Safety Promise. So there's a lot more information as far as, what's encompassed in the Public Safety Promise and educational opportunities and so forth.
That's great. Chris, I'll ask you the same question. What can we do? What can our listeners do to support what you're doing?
Well, the first is go to nu.edu website and look up workforce partnerships. And then you could see the different sectors and verticals we work in, whether it be healthcare, business and technology, public safety, community colleges, military, and veteran. So that would be number one and number two. And then the second is we're always looking for partners for employee pathways, partners, curriculum partners. I mean, our content is what is, we align with industry. So yeah.
Yeah, the other big one, Drew, we have the NU Foundation is going to be holding a gala on the deck of the Midway, which is so appropriate for a university founded by a PhD Navy captain, which is going to be celebrating our 53 years of difference making in the space. We give about $25 million a year in scholarships. So the foundation is an important part of us being able to raise dollars to support our students. So for anybody interested in helping in that way, it's really interesting, Drew. We've really found as we've been working, especially with high net worth individuals and corporate foundations and others in the space, they really had a standard program of working with some of the other players in the community. They didn't realize that NU was doing this kind of work with these kinds of students and that they could support it. And one of the things we're saying now is absolutely, like, we do not want to be a best kept secret. We want to make sure people know about it. And our foundation's a great way. If somebody wants to be able to share their gifts with us to be able to help our students, 100% of that money goes to scholarships for our students going in. So find out about the NU Gala or just go to the nu.edu/foundation and they'll find out more about it.
And that is open to the public, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and I want to thank Mark for making sure I was out of town when they planned that event, so I could not go to it. No, in all fairness, Mark had invited me to this and some other wonderful things that are coming on, and anytime you can spend some time with Mark and folks like Cindy and Chris and Meg and Nancy Rowland is a good thing. You're going to get a lot out of it. What I love about you folks and you is that you are so data-driven and you're so measure-oriented. You had mentioned that earlier. It's great to talk about it, but here are the results that come behind it. Kristen, any final comments?
No, just thank you for the good work. And, I want to look into all the great programs you have. I'm such an education junkie that I'm like, ooh, what do they have? So I'll be looking at the site.
Yeah, well, wishing you, Mark, and Cindy and Chris, continued success. We know that we've teed up a few more of your colleagues that will be coming in for our Spotlight show. We can't talk about you folks enough. I know our listeners are going to enjoy this interview, and I can't wait to come back into the studio.
Good stuff. Thanks, Drew.
Very good. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, Cindy, as well. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.